Good morning, fourth graders. Sorry for that pause. I wasn't sure if we were recording or not. Okay, so this is your Reflections Social Studies recording for Lesson 2. Today is Thursday. It's March 4th. So if you've chosen to follow along with me, go ahead, please take out your reflections book, and we are going to page 236. I'm going to start sharing. I've got it up on my desktop. Let's get rid of this. All right. So page 236, I'd like you to follow along. Today we're going to read the effects of the gold rush, and some of the information that you gather, you can also choose to use in your paragraph. So today you're starting a gold rush paragraph, just a simple one of some of the interesting facts that you've learned so far. All right, so as always, let's look up here at our timeline. So we are in about 1851, excuse me, and you can see the span. So let's get on with it. The effects of the gold rush. You are there. Imagine the sounds of saws and hammers can be heard day and night. Builders can't keep up with the growing population. The year is 1849, and San Francisco keeps growing bigger and bigger. Every day, more people arrive at the harbor. Most leave quick for the gold fields, but some stay to start businesses. All right, this is page 237. Settlements grow and change. The discovery of gold in California set off one of the largest movements of people in history. In just a few years, San Francisco changed from a town of about 800 people to a city of 35,000. Ships entered and left San Francisco by the thousands. It's really booming. Ferries and riverboats made regular trips up and down the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. Sacramento grew quickly, and so did Stockton and Marysville. They became trading and supply centers for the mining camps in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Other towns that had been mining camps just months earlier now had banks, food stores, and doctors' offices. As a miner named Charles Peters described, mining towns were not laid out and built according to any definite plan. They just growed, or grew to be proper. Many miners gave up on the dream of finding gold, but decided to stay in California anyway. Some became merchants and shopkeepers. Others claimed farmland in the Central Valley, where they began to grow food for the miners and others. So not everyone struck it rich, and so people that came to California had to figure out how they were going to make it work. So here's a little graph, a population of San Francisco. You can see the 2 years, and you can see that each person actually represents 1,000 people. Look at this. This is incredible, the growth. Wow. Really, really, really crazy. It says the population of San Francisco doubled every 10 days. Insane. All right, let's keep going. So here's a picture of the ships that brought the 49ers to California. It says they were often abandoned once they reached San Francisco. At one time, 500 ships were just left in the harbor. So abandoned meaning nobody took care of them, no one came back for them. All of these ships were just sort of left as people ran off to mine for gold. Here's a fast fact. During the gold rush, buildings were needed so badly in San Francisco that some abandoned ships in the harbor were made into hotels, stores, and warehouses. Very interesting. The new economy. Not only did the gold rush bring thousands of people to California, but it also transformed or changed California's economy. The gold rush made some people in California rich. While many workers mined gold, others started businesses. They provided goods and services to the miners and other consumers. A consumer is a person who buys a good or service. Most newcomers arrived in California with only what they could carry. These people needed places to live, food to eat, clothes to wear, and much more. This created demand for workers of many kinds. Carpenters built homes and buildings, and merchants, those are shopkeepers, sold supplies. Towns also needed police officers, bankers, grocers, blacksmiths, and other workers. Many entrepreneurs became wealthy selling goods and services to miners. An entrepreneur is a person who sets up a new business. One of the most successful entrepreneurs was Levi Strauss. And here's a picture of him. He developed a product that miners liked and needed, blue jeans. You've probably all heard of Levi's. Maybe you even have a pair of Levi's. Here is the creator of the Levi's jeans. Strauss and Jacob Davis, a tailor, designed the jeans to be tough and to last a long time. The jeans were made from denim, a rugged material, and had metal rivets at the corners of their pockets to make them strong. So let's go back up for just a quick sec. These are just different business owners, business people who offered services to the gold miners. So tinsmith, that's the man on the left, and bankers down below made more money from their businesses than miners made searching for gold. So they were kind of the smart ones. They decided, hey, we're not going to strike it rich. We're probably not going to find gold. Let's find another way to make money. And people needed things. California was growing, it had so many people. Excuse me. And then this is a little drawing. It says, some store owners mined the miners. That is, they often charged very high prices for scarce goods. And scarce means something that there aren't a lot of. So things that they knew people needed, they could charge a lot of money for. Look at, he's selling soap powder, like soap. And look at how much gold they're going to pay for soap. All right. Entrepreneurs, so these business people, such as Strauss, often had better chances of becoming rich than did people searching for gold. Because so many people had come to California in such a short time, many goods that people consumed became scarce. They were hard to find. Almost everything had to be imported or brought to California from somewhere else. In time, imported goods also included costly items, such as fine furniture and clothing. Wealthy miners and business owners were willing to pay for these products. In addition to a shortage of goods, there was a shortage of labor or workers. Most people wanted to look for gold rather than work at other jobs. The shortages of goods and labor caused inflation, or a sharp increase in prices. So that's when all the prices went way sky high. Remember how much a single egg cost that we read about? Pretty insane. That's called inflation. In fact, some miners found that it was cheaper to have their laundry sent to China and back than to have it cleaned in San Francisco. That's crazy. Clothing, food, haircuts, and pots and pans often cost 10 times more in California because of this inflation. So the economy is greatly changing because of this big gold rush and the rush of people coming to California. It's really changing how businesses and how prices are in California. And that is what we call the economy, how money is made for the state. All right, we're going on to page 240. New opportunities. Despite the high cost of living, people saw California as a place of freedom and opportunity. The gold rush economy in California meant that some people had opportunities that were not available to them in other places. Many women opened hotels, restaurants, and laundries. They worked long days, buying and cooking food, changing beds, washing sheets, cleaning, and sewing. Mary Jane McGuire, who had come to California from Maine with her husband, wrote, "Women's help is so very scarce that a woman can walk, that a woman that can work will make more money than a man." So there just weren't very many women. Their help was so scarce, so they could make more money than a man. In California, women could earn their own money. In many other places at this time, women were not allowed to own property or start their own businesses. So, this was also a reason that women wanted to come to California because they could survive and provide for themselves. Many free African Americans came to California as entrepreneurs. Mifflin Gibbs opened a shoe store in San Francisco during the gold rush. He later helped start the Mirror of the Times, the first newspaper in California that was owned by African Americans. Like other free African Americans in California, Gibbs used some of the money he earned to help buy the freedom of enslaved African Americans in the South. And so here he is, Mifflin Gibbs. And then the Chinese worker, here he is on the left, just represent the diversity that came to California, that California's population was growing to in the 1800s. So many people felt that California was a great place to come for opportunities. Damage to the land. At the beginning of the gold rush, there were no strong laws in California to protect the land from the effects of mining. As a result, the miners generally did what they wanted. As gold became harder to find, miners often tore up land or built dams to change the flow of rivers. This killed fish and kept the water from reaching farms and towns downstream. Perhaps the most harmful mining method was hydraulic mining. Hydraulic mining used water power to reach gold deeper in the ground. This method uncovered large amounts of gold, but it also caused big problems for the environment. It sent tons of dirt into the rivers that fed into San Francisco Bay. The mud stopped ships from traveling up some rivers. It also caused the waterways to flood after heavy rainfalls, damaging nearby farmlands. So people weren't really thinking about the effects. It was almost a bit of a greedy act where they just were thinking of finding that gold, and it was really affecting and damaging the environment. In 1884, lawmakers in California put a stop to hydraulic mining, yet some of the damage done by this and other mining methods is still visible today. So here you can see, so these are, the numbers are, this is hydraulic mining. So this is miners that used water power to reach the gold that was deeper in the ground. So you can see how it works. You can read number 1, and number 2, and then number 3. I'll let you take a closer look at that. A changing population. People of nearly every race, religion, and background came to California during the gold rush. Immigrants from around the world brought different customs, languages, and cultures. Most people learned to get along with people of other groups, but sometimes there were conflicts. Chinese and Mexican immigrants, California Indians, African Americans, Californios, and other groups faced discrimination. Discrimination is the unfair treatment of people because of their religion, their race, or their birthplace. Some miners felt that only people from the United States had the right to search for California gold. Some people even threatened to harm immigrant miners or worked to pass laws that limited their rights. California Indians were hurt by the gold rush in other ways as well. Many were forced off their lands when miners found gold there. Miners also cut down forests and destroyed rivers and streams. These were the places where Indians hunted, fished, and gathered their foods. Remember, the Indians, the California Indians, they were the natives. They were actually there first, right? These actions often led to violent conflicts between miners and California Indians. In the early days of the gold rush, violence and crime were common. Because there were few government officials, some people decided to become vigilantes, to enforce the laws. A vigilante is a person who takes the law into his or her own hands. Because they did not follow the rules of law, in some cases, vigilantes punished people who had done nothing wrong. So vigilantes were not police officers. They were just people who decided, you're doing something wrong. I'm going to take care of you, or I'm going to give a consequence to you. They just did it on their own. So not always the right thing. So here's a picture. It says, after a gang set fire to downtown San Francisco, Sam Brannan led the formation of the Committee of Vigilance. It says, why do you think the group chose an eye to be the symbol of its seal? So think about that. We can talk more about vigilantes. All right, this is the end. Here's a little summary. The gold rush changed almost everything about California. The population grew rapidly and became more diverse. Entrepreneurs sold new kinds of goods and services. The gold rush also harmed the land and led to more crime. Some people suffered discrimination. And here's a picture. It says, to show their dislike of Chinese immigrants, some miners in California during the gold rush would cut off the long braided hair called queues worn by Chinese men at the time. So just a lot of differences and people not being used to the diversity that was coming into California. And so unfortunately, there was violence and mistreatment of many during this time. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and let you think about all those interesting facts. And I will see you soon, fourth graders. Have a good morning.